Meanwhile,
KMUZ, Turner Radio's Crackle, 100.7 FM and 88.5 FM in Marion and Polk County, Salem and Kaiser, both near and far. KMWV FM Dallas at 98.3 HD2 with monstrous sounds, and taking over the entire planet at KMUZ.org. For Spooktacular!
Let's see. This year's Spooktacular is coming together quite nicely, but I should still review this year's supplies to make sure I have everything I need for tonight's show. Thanks for lending a hand.
No problem. I'm always glad to make an appearance, assuring that I continue to keep a job in this troubled economy.
Well, you won't be so grateful when you see what Craft Services has on the table these days. Now, it looks like they're bringing the stuff out for the show already. Let's just watch them bring it out and we can check it off as they go by. 13 pounds of Halloween LPs.
Check.
A dozen unnecessary sound effects drops. 11 full-size decorative skeletons for a respectable laboratory look.
Check.
And 10 creatures of the night. I don't hear a check.
We could only find 9.
No, 9 is how many tricks we have for every treat. We need a 10th creature of the night. We can't do the show without a 10th creature of the night. Call the Vampire Council.
They were already making an appearance today.
Really? It's almost like we planted that as a plug instead of a plot device. Well, call the Wolfman.
Sorry, he's already booked. He's up to his neck in hairy holiday happenings every Halloween.
What we need is a creature of terrifying delight. A real mistress of the night. A queen of fright, rarely seen in the light. Where can we find someone like that on such short notice? They'd have to be, well, local.
I think I have just the person.
Hello, I am Kylie Burbank, and I guess tonight I am...
Have I ever thanked you for that machine of yours?
Not recently, no.
Really? You'd think I'd do that over the theme music or something.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
Tonight. Have you turned the lights off? Close the windows? Good. Now, light a candle. Turn the radio up. And gather round. Keep your phone handy. That number again. 503-990-6101. When you are ready, call, and tell us about any unexplained experience you have had. Because it's time to start telling stories.
Tonight we present Ghost Stories Part 2. To haunt or to haunt not.
All right. How's everybody doing out there this fine evening? It's Mid-Valley Mutations, and we have a couple of special guests here in the studio this week. It is Kylie Burbank. Hello. How's it going?
I loved the intro. I feel truly honored.
Oh, well, you got to have a nice creature of the night when you're going to do a little bit of Halloween here. on Mid-Valley Mutations. And you know, you kind of outdid yourself this time, because usually you come in and you play some songs and maybe some people call. You brought a member of the Vampire Council with you?
Yes.
This is fantastic. How's it
Yes.
going?
I am doing very well. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Well, why don't you introduce yourself so we're not just saying your esteemed colleague and all that kind of stuff.
Well, my name is Aiden, but in our council I go by Valak Gray.
Ah.
It's a super fancy, cool name.
Excellent, excellent. Well, this is just kind of a taste of what we have going for us this evening, because we are going to be taking some phone calls and telling some ghost stories. This time of year, we like to basically kind of pull out all the stops, have some people give their most important supernatural experience a little turn on the radio. This is the kind of thing that we don't actually get this much of on the radio these days, unfortunately. People, I mean, Art Bell's kind of moved away, the new guy's not quite as good, and I feel like there's definitely moments where these kinds of stories have a place but are not being told. They're not given a little bit of a room in the popular culture.
Very true. Very sad.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're going to try to get to as many of these as we can. And this is where you come in as a listener at home. You give us a call, 503-990-6101. We'll put you on the air, and you can tell us your ghastly experience. Now, please stick around and listen for in hour 2. We're going to have Ariana DJ Refugium from Ghost House down in Eugene call in. She's got a little story she wants to tell, so that's going to be very exciting. So please listen in for hour 2 at 11 for that. But right now we're just kind of like easing into things. We're kind of getting the mood set. We've got some nice little sound effects in the background here, and we're in the lab. Kind of setting the tone, as it were, because this time of year we've got to like concoct some brew and some things like that to kind of put us in the mood.
Some spells, yeah.
Yeah, get some spells cast, that kind of stuff. So let's get things started here. We're kind of in that time of year where the vampires and the werewolves get a lot of turn, a lot of play. They're mentioned a little more often than some of the other monsters that we tend to love.
Very true.
And so I thought that this might be a good opportunity to try some of those tunes and whatnot. So let's hear a little bit from The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and then when we come back, we're going to have some more cool stuff here for our Spooktacular 2019. Whoa! Yeah, it's fun. We're having a good time.
He was a strange one, a relic from an age long forgotten. Some music he liked, some upset him terribly. He loved parties and party music. He was so dull. After all, what ideas can the creature from the Black Lagoon have? He only wants to feast on the grapes of wrath.
All right, that was a little of a creature from the Black Lagoon here as we solved a little bit of some tech difficulties at the top of the show. I think we got these all ironed out here, and I think we need to set a little bit of a mood, if I'm not mistaken. So let's get started with a little bit of a ghost story. Now, as a member of the Vampire Council, I suspect you have a number of interesting experiences, as it were.
To say the least, yeah.
let's start off with something that kind of eases us into this. Now, obviously, it's the holiday season, and so one of the first things that ends up happening for people this time of year is going out at night. So, do you have something maybe that's an evening encounter, something a little set the mood here as we dim the lights?
Yeah, so I'm from Missouri originally, so unfortunately I have not gotten to do any paranormal investigating in Oregon as of now.
Is that normally your kind of pastime?
Yeah, actually I really like doing paranormal investigating. I used to have a paranormal investigating group. We were established for about 7 years. I have done quite a few cases, and one of them that still kind of disturbs me to this day. There's a place called Bluff Woods on the outside of St. Joseph, Missouri, and me and my paranormal group like to take our newbies out there to kind of break them in.
Is this kind of because there's activity that it's a good place to check out the first time? Or?
Yeah, so when St. Joe was first established, to my understanding at least, it was further on that side of town, and there was nice walking trails. It was all paved. There's a little playground out there. But as St. Joe got bigger, it kind of ventured more towards the north, and that place just kind of got abandoned. So even though it's still there, no one really goes there unless they're wanting to get away from people.
Right. I see. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of urban legends around there. A lot of people talking about there being like kids lurking in the forest, or scary monsters, or what have you. One of the most common urban legends is that if you go into the parking lot and park your car, if you go out venturing into the woods, when you come back, there'll be little handprints all over your car.
Ooh.
No, thank you.
Now that would be terrifying to find, because it's clearly not animal related. Like, it's not like a cat walked over or something like that. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not a big fan of living children, but I've never really given dead children a chance.
Maybe the dead ones are nicer. Who knows?
Maybe.
Maybe.
They probably scream less.
Probably.
Maybe.
So there was one particular night we were breaking in some newbies, and we decided to do a couple of different EVPs. For those not paranormal savvy, it's electro voice phenomena.
Right. This is when you use like a recording device of some kind to capture what seems like an empty room or what might be just wind, but upon reviewing the recording, you find that there's voices.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes there's different knocks. A lot of times it's something that it's too quiet for you to pick up with human ears or what have you. So we decided to use some of that over the course of the night, when in particular we were taking a couple snapshots around the area as we got over this bridge. Most of the people in the group started feeling kind of eerie, so we felt like it would be a good place to stop.
Interesting.
We noticed that there was a big hack mark, like chop mark, if you will, in one of the rails of the bridge that was made out of wood. And my buddy Cody, that was in the group with me, asked, well, I wonder what did that. And I was like, well, it looks very deliberate, so either somebody came along and vandalized it, or maybe somebody just made that part of the bridge for whatever reason, for character. Doubt it. So as we began our questions, we weren't really getting anything on recording, and we were about to leave when Cody came back to the mark on the bridge, and he asked me, he's like, what do you think made that? He's like, do you think it was a knife? I was like, maybe an axe, honestly. I was like, that probably looks more accurate. And upon listening back to our EVP, we heard a very quiet yes, and we were scared out of our wits.
Yeah.
We got a couple of pictures of there's some people that when they see pictures of orbs, they're like, oh, it could be a bug, oh, it could be, and this is the way that I look at it. If it is a solid object, a solid perfect circle, and it usually has a hue around it that's multicolored, and it just kind of stays in one place, it doesn't like move or streak around, to me personally, that's an orb.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if I take two pictures back to back and 1 minute it's there, next minute it's not. So we got quite a few pictures of that where 1 minute there we would see nothing but, and then in the next snapshot, maybe a second later, it would be gone.
Wow. Interesting. Now, you mentioned a bridge, which is kind of, curious timing, because last week we had a caller who called in, this gal, who was telling a story about bridges in Puerto Rico, where they have more car crashes because of theoretical spooky phenomena. So, something about bridges have always kind of had a little bit of a creepiness to them for me.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know about you two, but where I was growing up, there was a bridge that kids would often go to, and that would be where, the drinking and partying would kind of happen after hours sort of thing. And it was one of those places where, like, if you were to ever go there during the day, you would realize how dangerous this bridge was. But at night, kids are like, oh, this is fine, And there was a certain amount of that, like, dangerous vibe that I think we were all kind of, like, going for when we would kind of go out there. So that's fascinating. How eerie. Now, when you are trying to do, like, EVP stuff, what do you usually use for recording that kind of thing?
We actually have two different just regular voice recorders, but we have a very established set of rules. So whenever you ask a question, you ask it very clearly, and then you breathe softly, like nobody makes noise. If you do make a noise, you have to say, hey, that was me.
Right.
I did this, or hi, I'm Cody, I just coughed, or something like that, so that way when we go back, we don't think that it's something that it wasn't.
Right, because when you're reviewing this, you want enough information about what was on the tape or recording or what have you, of like, oh, this was that, and on and on. That's fascinating. Well, hopefully you can get into that kind of stuff out here, because I understand that Oregon has some very weird, ghostly things. At least from the callers that we get about this. Awesome. Well, we're going to have to touch base with you again, because you actually have an event coming up that's actually kind of relevant to today, which is National Coming Out Day.
True.
And so we should kind of plug the Vampire Council's work here. What's coming up? Give us a little information about this.
So the Vampire Court has a big event coming up on October 26th at the Premier Academy of Performing Arts in downtown Salem. It is our first annual Halloween bash, where we are raising money to donate to Trans Lifeline, which is a suicide hotline for transgender individuals. So we will have 3 live bands. We'll have No Me Gusta, Fear Dog, and Sadgasm, along with a public premiere of DJ Young Hentai. Lots of good food and alcohol to be had.
Yeah.
And
I imagine you'll need some ID for that 21 and over privilege.
Yeah,
but that's and it's cool that it's like local acts too that are like these kind of like younger groups. That I mean, like there's something about it that's a very appealing event that I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
I'm really excited too. We're busting our booties on this one.
Yeah,
it's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
It's been stressful, but it's been a work of love and passion, definitely.
I'm gonna be bartending it with my friend Mesa, and we're gonna have some food because legally you have to.
Oh yeah, you got to have something to eat for sure. But I mean, like it is kind of funny because like I noticed that more and more of these kinds of events, and I guess I'm thinking about groups like the Satanic Temple and whatnot, where these organizations that used to be, at least in the 80s, like feared by mainstream people, these are the places that actually have a lot more like diversity and openness to like new causes that don't get a lot of play in the mainstream media.
Yeah, definitely.
True.
You know, like I mean the causes of trans teens and trans lives, like that cannot be undersold as something that's very important these days. Places where people feel safe, places where people feel accepted. Without the kind of like creepiness that maybe I grew up with in the 80s and 90s. Right. So, I mean, it's always good to hear about these kinds of groups and shows where that kind of stuff is happening. So.
Yeah, safety is super important to me. There's only a few places in Salem and that I really feel safe. you know, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that it's going to be a really safe place for everyone.
Yeah. Well, and you got to imagine as adults, a lot of us can carve out our own niches of places we want to go, and we can opt not to be places. But for younger people, I mean, where can they go? Like, home sometimes isn't a safe place.
True.
True.
So the more that we can cultivate like this, the better. And I love hearing these kinds of stories. So
We're going to be doing all ages, too.
excellent.
I think we're going to have one in the spring, so if you can't make it, we're going to do an all ages in spring.
Hopefully late March,
Yeah.
around spring equinox time.
Oh, good timing. Good
Yeah.
timing. Excellent. I love that. Well, we got more stuff that we're going to do throughout the hour, but I kind of wanted to mention that and get that
Thank
out
you.
because,
Yeah.
and we actually have a call coming in here too. So give me a moment here while I get this set up. Okay, caller, I believe you are on the air. Caller, are you there? Hello, caller. How you doing? This is Mid-Valley Mutations. You're here with Kylie and, a member of the Vampire Council, and we're telling some ghost stories. Do you want to introduce
All right,
yourself?
you ready to hear a ghost story now, or what?
Yeah, I'm ready. What do you got?
Are you ready to hear a really, really scary, spooky ghost story? I'm on the air, or what?
Yeah. We are ready. Let's hear our scary story here. What do you got for us?
Okay. So, it was Christmas Eve. Ooh, that's scary. It was like, ooh, the ghost of Christmas Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is real. This is 100% real. I'm not gonna lie right now.
Nice.
But I was going to sleep with my girlfriend, and then all of a sudden, we turned off the lights and stuff, and then I was in my bedroom. My parents were the house where I was raised or whatever. This was like some track house or whatever. It wasn't like old house or spooky house or whatever. But all of a sudden, we turn off the lights, and the change starts moving in this little cup on the outside of the room. And we're like, oh, there's some weird-ass animal inside of our room. This is super, super strange. Like what's going on here? Like, there's some weird, unidentified being inside of my room,
Right.
And so, we turn on the light to see what's going on, and then, it just stops. It just totally stops. No, I can't see anything. I thought there was like a raccoon or some kind of weird rabid beast inside of my room, but there was nothing there. And my girlfriend's like, "Oh, okay, well, just turn off the light, whatever," because she's fearless. She's crazy, you know what I mean? Like, I was like freaked out. I was like, "What's going on here? This is totally freaking weird."
Right.
And so I was like, "All right, fine, I'll turn off the light. It's kind of creepy. This is scary. This is weird. What the hell was this thing?" And so I got to turn off the light. And all of a sudden, I turn off the light, and then I just see this bright white light in the room. It was like this weird orb, and it just illuminated the whole room. Turned off the light, and I was just like freaking out. I was like, "This is crazy! What is going on?" And then I think I just probably turned on the light again or something. But
Right.
and then we were talking about it later, and then she was like, my girlfriend, she was like, "Oh, I just saw this big, gigantic shadow. This shadow, like, everywhere. But I just saw this big white light." So I don't know. Anyway, it was crazy. It was like, and then I was even tripping out for like months and months and months afterwards. That I actually, because I live in California or whatever, so I went and looked at the seismic records or whatever to see if maybe some kind of earthquake had happened.
Oh, right, because it could have been rattling, the wall or something.
Yeah, it could have been, I'm trying to rule out all possibilities. I'm like scientific-minded person or whatever, right? So, I want to check that out. And, there was, of course, it was nothing or whatever. So it was totally something totally supernatural and totally weird. So I was just like, after that, I was like, all right, well, maybe there's something out there that I'm not really able to comprehend at this point or whatever. So I don't know. That's my crazy weird ghost.
Wow. I got a couple questions for you if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure. So now, had you ever encountered orbs like that before in previous?
Oh no.
So that was the first time anything like that had ever happened to you.
That's the first and the only time that has ever happened. So.
Wow, how fascinating. And now in terms of like the kind of sounds and chain rattling kind of stuff with the cup, had anything similar occurred before? Like perhaps like...
No, that was the only time that's ever happened.
Wow.
And, I just had like a cup like a glass on the other side of the room.
Right.
It was like totally out of reach. Like nobody could have been messing with me or anything like that.
Right.
Because my girlfriend was right next to me in small, very, very small, like little twin bed.
It would actually be harder to kind of like sneak in there and do kind of like a little bit of a goof than it would be to, like.
It was totally beyond the realm of any kind of possibility of, like we both heard it. There was just something weird going on. It was very strange.
Interesting.
And, after that was kind of one of the things that kind of just, like, opened up my mind to more, a lot more possibilities.
Sure.
Cool.
Because before that, you would have never,
wow, that was cool.
Why would you even think to, because you're just kind of hanging out, like, oh, yeah, whatever, and then, like, something like that happens, you're like, oh, wow. How fascinating.
Yeah, it was really, really weird. I mean, that was, like, kind of thing where it's like, I mean, obviously you had to be there, but it's like, there's nothing else. I mean, it was just something that was not explainable.
Wow. Do either of you have any questions for our caller?
Well, I practice witchcraft, and in the British traditional sense, when you're trying to purify something or, wish happiness, peace, you'll try and surround something with white light. It's usually a very, like, holy thing. So I would say that this definitely was not, like, an evil spirit. I think maybe it was just a spirit trying to be seen, and maybe it was...
It wasn't... Yeah. It was an interesting thing because it was like, I saw this bright light and this orb, but when I was talking to my girlfriend, she saw this dark shadow that enveloped the room. So there was kind of like this dualistic, because I don't know, it was just weird because it was like, there was a split at some point in our perception of the event. Right. Like there was sort of like a fork in the road. Like she saw it and I saw it another way, but we both heard this like glass that was full of change. That I knew it was full of change. It was on the inside of the room. It was like just a thing that was there. Just start rattling on the other side of the room. But then at a certain point in the experience, like our paths sort of just diverged. These two different things. So I'm not worried if it was like evil or it was good. It was just a thing that happened. You know what I mean? It was cool.
How fascinating.
And after that, I think it kind of led me in towards the sort of the other path of like, maybe like, all right, I'm going to smudge the room with some sage, and maybe I'm open to this idea of like, doing like a type of ritual or something, like a cleansing ritual, or just really like basic sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like basic stuff.
Yeah. And you had never pursued that kind of stuff before, but this was the incentive to kind of like...
No.
How fascinating.
No, it was just weird.
Interesting.
That was cool.
Well, are there other details you want to leave us with before we break off?
Can I tell you one more? Can I tell you one more ghost story before I go?
Absolutely. What do you got?
Okay. All right, I'm going to tell you another one. This one's a little bit of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer. So, I was like 14 years old, and, I played in like a punk band, and like, I think we were active until we were like maybe, like 15, 16 years old or something.
the best years for doing punk rock, of course.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm a kid. Of course I'm going to play punk rock, right? I'm going to play punk rock. So anyway, like, my friend, he was the bass player in the band. He was like the mayor. Everybody knew him. Everybody loved him. But, I guess he had his demons or whatever. So he committed suicide when he was 8. Right? He committed suicide. It was messed up. It was really sad. It was like, right. And I'm kind of just like, why would you commit suicide? Like, everybody loved you. Like, he was like straight up player. Like he got all the girls and everything. It was crazy, right? But, so like maybe like a month or something after he committed suicide, I got a letter in the mail, and it was addressed to him.
Whoa.
And he lived like way up on the other side of town, like maybe like 10 miles away,
Okay.
way up in the hills, like
Interesting.
totally way far away from me.
So there's no reason
And
you should be
so,
getting this by accident.
I was like, why am I getting this guy's mail? Like,
Did you open
there's
it?
kind of a situation again where I'm just like, oh, somebody's playing a joke on me. This is crazy. Like, what is going on? This doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. There's not really a whole lot more to the story other than that. Other than it just being this crazy, weird coincidence where I'm just like, what is going on here? This doesn't really make any sense. But I just ended up taking the piece of mail, and I ended up driving it to his house and giving it to, I knocked on the door, and, his sister answered the door or whatever, and it was just like, oh, yeah, whatever, not even acting like it was a big deal or something. But
Oh, yeah,
it was
misdelivered.
definitely something really weird and ghostly, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? This just doesn't make any sense. Like, who's messing with me right now? But I'm pretty sure nobody was messing with me, because nobody would really take that much of an interest in, whatever I'm going through, my situation, and actually, do something like that. I mean, that would take a lot of, effort. And I don't think you could
Right.
do, so.
Wow. Yeah. I'd be too curious to know what was in that letter.
Me too.
I'd really want to know.
I probably would have peeked.
I didn't open the letter. I think it was something that wasn't too interesting. That's a good question, though. I really don't know what it was. I think it was just
Turns out your friend owes $15 to the power company. Oh, no.
yeah, so it was something really mundane. It was
Right.
not anything that. I could try to read into it and just be like, no, what's going on here? But it was nothing that interesting. It was just some really dumb thing. But
worth
I don't know. It was weird.
Wow.
True.
Well, I appreciate this call. This is great. Do you want to introduce yourself, or do you want to just keep it anonymous?
No. I prefer to remain completely anonymous.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, anonymous caller.
Yes.
And if you,
Yes, anonymous caller.
yeah, if you know anyone
All right,
else,
my
who's
friend,
got,
you have a wonderful night. Austin.
yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, buddy.
And if you got
All
other
right,
friends
my
out there
friend, you have
that
a good night.
creepy encounters, have them give us a call.
Yeah, have a weird, spooky Halloween. Yeah, right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you so much, caller. And I think with that, we might transition here to a little bit of music to reset for the next bit here. So we're going to hear a brand new tune. I just picked this up actually down south by Chopstick, and this is Demigorgon 2BC. So this is Mid-Valley Mutations doing our, you know how this goes. It's something like this.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
And I think at this point, it might be time to hear from the weather computer. So, weather computer, what have you got for us this time?
Thank you, Austin. This is the Mid-Valley Mutations weather computer, and here is a look at the local weather, brought to you by actual ghosts. The kind that haunt you and show up in the background of photos and recordings. Actual ghosts. The scariest thing imaginable. Supporting this show, now, apparently. They swear they aren't evil, which is an odd thing to insist, but who am I to judge? At least it's not a corporate sponsorship. Am I right? High five. So hats off to actual ghosts. We salute you. Tonight, a few clouds. Low near 36 degrees. You heard me. Almost freezing. And it's barely even October. Let that sink in. Hope you own long johns. Winds north by northwest at 5 miles per hour, with a 100% chance of me making the same ridiculous Hitchcock joke I make every single time. 10% chance of rain. Sunrise at 7:22 a.m. Tomorrow. Cloudy. Yep. It's that time of year again. High around 61 degrees. Yay. Winds north at 3 miles per hour, with a 10% chance of rain. And with a sunset at 6:33 p.m., it's impossible to deny it. Winter is coming. And that was a look at the local weather, brought to you by the weather computer, and actual ghosts. So creepy how they open the cabinets when I'm not looking, and cause the faucet to turn on at night. But that couldn't possibly be a sign of creepy things to come, right, actual ghosts? Anyway, let's get back to Austin and Mid-Valley Mutations.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
That is so cute.
All right, I think we have things almost ready here. So we probably want to turn that down. We probably want to turn that down. And we probably want to turn that down because we just want to hear the soothing sounds of Kylie Burbank here on Mid-Valley Mutations. And it's been a little while, so
Yes.
I'm excited to have you here.
I think it's been a year.
Probably, at least. So we'll just kind of turn things over to you, and we'll be telling some more ghost stories after this. So if you do have a story, please call afterwards. I'm going to just turn things over to you.
Perfect. I went through, this spring was probably the worst of my life. So this song is about that. It's hard to believe that you could perceive that I would mess up that bad. And in the end, you weren't a friend. Wouldn't be surprised if you died. It wouldn't be that sad. Tell me who would care. It wouldn't be that sad. I really hope you're scared. I made you, you know it's true. I will watch you burn down. And everything inside, including your pride, will all crumble away. just a shell of a man. There goes the thunder, here comes lightning. They've always been quite a pair. And when it's failing, don't come crying. Already know it's not fair. You really are just sad. That's not meant to be mean. I'll take the blame for now. Wait for the truth to be seen. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
I edited out some spice words.
I figured as much.
Isn't that always the way for something like this? You gotta leave a little on the cutting room floor.
True.
Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you.
I
I don't
appreciate that.
think I know that one.
I haven't really recorded it. I don't know.
This is the tricky part when you are a songwriter, is that like when you have new material kind of burbling up, it's like, when do I share it? When is it public? You know, that kind of thing.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, that was beautiful though. Thank you. That's really cool.
you.
So do you have plans to record that at some point?
I
or-
think so. I just don't know if I'm ready to tell everyone how I feel.
Well, you know, it's funny because this time of year feels like the time when people are often like hiding and whatnot, and I always feel more genuine this time of year.
Yeah.
Everybody wears like a mask and a costume around Halloween. They're like, oh, hey, we can fit in or whatever. And I'm like, this is how we feel all the time. Come on.
Yeah.
So I always kind of find this time of year a little bit funny in that regard. So. Yeah. Now you recently did basically a string of shows, one at Venti's and a few other places. Is that? But right now you're kind of like in a little bit of a kind of holding pattern, as it were.
Yeah, I'm going to school right now, which I never thought I'd go back to school, but I'm going to tattoo school. So I hear that that's a career.
That's very cool, actually.
And I think that would make mother proud, you know.
Sure. What inspired the tattoo school? Or
I'm learning how to do like microblading and cosmetic stuff as well as body art. And I've always been really into cosmetics, so I'm like, this seems perfect for me. And
very adjacent kind of thing. Yeah. Well, and that makes sense too, because you have a lot of like style and fashion as part of your get up.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, let's get another song here in a moment. But why don't we tell people at home? They're tuning in, they're scanning the dial, and then they suddenly hear this pretty song. How can they hear more? Like, what's the story?
It's really creepy. If you Google my name, Kylie Burbank, all of my stuff comes up. It's fantastic. I have a Bandcamp and a YouTube. I recently posted a YouTube video of a song I wrote when I was like 18 that I realized I really actually love.
Ooh.
It's weird when like you rediscover your own music and you're like, actually this was great. I'm proud of myself.
That is kind of, because usually like it's the other effect where like even with distance, things from the past, I'm kind of like, I've gotten better. But so this reminded me of seeing the Murder City Devils not too long ago, where they were on stage and they were talking about like, when you're young and you think you know everything, and then you get a little bit older and you're like, oh, I didn't know what I was talking about. And then when you get older, you're like, actually, I did know what I was talking about. I didn't know when I was a middle-aged person thinking that I didn't know when
Yeah.
And there is that
definitely.
kind of like pattern in your life where sometimes you look back at your teenage self and you're like, I was way more together than I thought I was.
Yeah. I mean, it's a super angsty song, and like a breakup song, but I think I write the best music when I'm depressed. I think a lot of people can say that, though.
I think a lot of
an artist thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just going to go that route where I think if you have any creative bone, you know, you tend to kind of like get to this phase. You're like, oh, I when I'm a little sad, things come out quicker. There's a little.
I think a lot of it's a lot of therapy too, because
Yeah,
I know,
true.
I know for myself, I write a lot of poetry when I'm really depressed, and I feel like it's the best way to get things out of your system is to just get it down on paper, so that way it's not eating you up as much inside.
For sure. I like that. It is like a creative therapy. Like you're getting it out of your system so that
A release.
you don't have to like blow up at somebody at work one day.
Yeah, definitely not a good idea.
Why don't we hear another tune here? This is Kylie Burbank. You're listening to Mid-Valley Mutations, and it is a part of our Halloween Spooktacular, and I'm going to let things turn over to her.
All right. Please tell me I have the capo in the right spot. I think so. We're a little odd to tune. That's fine. Not sure why I have an accent all of a sudden. An awkward accent. You're gone like the wind now. I'm a fool, I'll love you anyhow. Every breath that I take, another tear that I cry. Every word you speak makes me wanna die. You let me bleed. The love that I lost is the love I need. Every step that I take is way too long. Every choice I make is clearly wrong. I'm drained from all the love I give. Will I feel this way as long as I live? How long? Everything that you do is perfect. Everything I do makes me regret. I hope you're happier without me. I'll be okay with time, hopefully. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I'm pretty sure you have that one on YouTube, don't you?
Yeah,
I was gonna
put
say,
that one
because
up
I
there.
stumbled across that randomly, and I was like, Kylie has a new video. What? And then I like listened to it. I was like, oh, I love this.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
It's funny. I think I made this comment last time, but your voice completely betrays the way you look. A lot of singer-songwriters wouldn't necessarily dress the way that you dress.
That's true.
And if you saw somebody who is getting ready to kind of do the kind of musical set that you do, it's not like people are coming out going like, oh, yeah, like I expect a singer-songwriter, you know, like there's a little bit of incongruence there. And
That's
so
true.
I think what I like about that, though, is that in terms of, you know, like expectations and whatnot, that's another thing that I think this time of year and goth culture does very well, which is like there is an expectation, and then sometimes this person is like very passionate about cats. You know, it's like it's
it's something that I think is we can all relate to, where like we do feel this darkness as part of our lives, but I mean, there's also this other part of it that isn't always just graveyards and horror movies.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think Aiden, what's something really ungoth that I do?
Something really ungoth. I don't know. I mean, that's honestly really hard because I've been inside her house, and she has a black cat. Most of her things are black.
Right.
However, you do have the shred couch that is very not goth.
True.
Unless your gothiness involves like raiding like an antique store, then maybe.
True.
But
Johnny Garcia from Sadgasm gave me a couch that was already partially destroyed, and then the cats in my house just also destroyed it. So I have this like shredded up couch.
The cats, they do like to ruin a good piece of upholstery if they can. That was really great. Maybe we'll get another song later or something.
Sure, sounds good.
We'll take a little break here, let you relax, because it's almost near the top of the show actually, and so
get some callers.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, we also have to do a bit of the legal ID. So
True.
Hold on one moment, and let's make some time for this.
KMUZ Turner, 100.7 FM and 88.5 FM in Marion and Polk County, Salem and Kaiser. KMWV FM Dallas at 98.3 HD2, and taking over the entire planet at kmuz.org.
Ooh, that wind is a little loud there. Sorry. Yeah, this is KMUZ. This is Mid-Valley Mutations, and we are in our, how did we put it the other day? Something along the lines of
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
And, we try to do this once a year. I was actually looking back at some of the previous things, and I started doing it on the radio in the year 2004.
That's so cool.
And so we didn't do ghost stories the whole time. Back then we just played spooky songs. But over the years we kind of fell into this rhythm and taking phone calls and whatnot. And it's been a lot of fun doing that sort of thing.
So cool.
And it sounds like we're getting a phone call here. Hello, caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Ah, hello. Excellent. Would you mind introducing yourself for our listeners at home?
Well, my name is DJ Refugian, and I run a night called Ghost House, so I thought I'd call in Ghost Story.
Oh, excellent. This is perfect, actually, to have a Ghost House ghost story for us this year.
It's even about a ghost in the house.
Right. Yeah. Well, so let's get into this a little bit. So we can talk about the Ghost House DJ stuff later. Let's set the mood. Where and when does this event take place?
Well, this is sort of an accumulation of events, and it's partly something I witnessed that confirms the original story, and it's partly an original story from the people who take care of this place. And the place is the Cedar Head Lighthouse, and the house is the innkeeper's house. And many, many people know about this house and this lighthouse because it's one of the most photographed buildings in Oregon.
Oh, okay.
It's slightly north of Florence. It's on a very dramatic head that sticks out into the ocean, and the lighthouse is a little bit separate from the lighthouse keeper's house, which is now a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
Well, for years, people staying at the bed and breakfast have insisted that things got moved around when they weren't in the room and when there was no maid service on. Like, they'd come back and find their wallet missing, or their keys got moved, or hairbrushes seemed to be a favorite thing, makeup and things like that. And that things would get tidied up, oddly enough, when the innkeepers weren't around. And this was all very, very strange. And so the most interesting story, I think, that relates to this particular ghost, who's widely thought to be one of the lighthouse keeper's wives, from probably about 100 years ago, if I remember correctly, is that there was one time when, the other thing is that a lot of times the activity was centered around the attic and the upper stories. Like that was kind of where it was.
Right.
And one time, this little boy was visiting with his family, and he picked up a rock and threw it, and it went through a window into the attic. Well, there's no real way to get up into that attic without a lot of real problems, and it happened to be on a Friday, and the innkeepers and the rangers didn't feel like they needed to get up there and clean it up immediately. But, they fully anticipated that they would go up there Monday morning, and there would be glass everywhere, and they'd have to clean it up, and it would be a giant mess. But when the innkeeper went up there on Monday morning, all of the glass had been swept into a neat pile right underneath the window that had been broken.
What?
And literally no one had been in the attic the entire weekend.
Huh. Okay. That's a little strange.
Yes. And so my part of this is that when I and my friends were hanging out there and walking around for the day, and we heard this story from the ranger, we went back down and we're walking past the house on our way out, and we got a picture of all of us in front of the innkeeper's house. And you know how in pictures there's sometimes like a face will appear or some sort of apparition kind of thing? There's a very clear face that shows up in the picture that my friend took in the window of the attic.
Interesting. Yeah, this is a very common thing among people who collect photographs of spirits or ghosts or whatnot. Like, you won't be able to capture the spirit directly, but in a window or a reflection, they come through better.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we were looking at the house and we didn't really see anything with our eyes, but it's there in the picture.
Fascinating. Now, I have a couple of different questions. So, with this particular lighthouse and whatnot, are there some speculation as to who the ghosts were that are haunting it, or was it even haunted before? Like, is it from the island area itself where the lighthouse was built? I'm always curious, like, where this stuff comes from.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think it was Playaswa tribal land a long time ago, but they didn't really live in this cove. Their villages were other places, so I don't think that it's that. I do think that perhaps the isolation of the place. I mean, until Highway 101 got completed, it was almost impossible to get there. In some cases, you'd have to take a boat around. In some cases, you were riding horses through the woods.
Right.
And it's really isolated. And so I can see how an early family living out there would just kind of go crazy because of the long winters and how isolated they were. They didn't, have any interaction with anybody around.
Yeah, I mean, people don't talk about this a lot, but like the Oregon, I mean, it doesn't take long for you to be in a remote area,
Yeah.
And often people live in these remote areas. I mean, like I've been on a number of camping trips where I thought I was in the middle of nowhere, and then you turn a corner and there's a house.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think,
exactly.
And I think that kind of mentality of like there's people living in places where we don't expect them and whatnot, that extends to a lot of these kinds of experiences that we have. Now, you said that you've been to this lighthouse?
Yeah, multiple times, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've never actually been inside of the building that is supposedly haunted.
Got it.
The inn itself.
Okay, so you can go and visit, but there's not like a tour or anything that you can go through? Or...
Right. It's you have to book a night as a bed and breakfast guest, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense, I guess.
I've never had reason to stay there, so.
Well, you got a good ghost reflection, so that's pretty excellent.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Are there other details about the lighthouse that we should touch on before we move to the next part?
I think it's a very eerie place. It's a very windswept place, and I think that plays with the imagination a bit. I don't know that it's like all the activity seems to be centered around the innkeeper's house and not the lighthouse itself, which I've always thought was a little interesting because customarily, I mean, there are so many stories about haunted lighthouses, kind of a cliche almost, but this one is really, it's not the building itself, it's the house next to it.
Yeah. Well, and then there's a lot of stuff associated with shipwrecks, too, which is very common on the Oregon coast. And
definitely.
so that was kind of where I thought this might have been going, is that like a shipwreck was somehow involved. But this is a little bit of a different take on that. So that's fascinating. Yeah. Now, you mentioned this up top, but we actually know who DJ Refugium is because you were on the show not too long ago, actually.
I was there in spirit, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, this is actually going to be fortuitous timing because tomorrow is Ghost House in Eugene.
Yes, that's true.
So just to kind of plug a little bit of this, let's talk about Ghost House and whatnot. So.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Yeah, this is kind of a regular event where you guys get together and DJ, but maybe you could talk about how it got started.
It got started because my husband and I are like hardcore elder goths. We've been in the scene since the 80s-ish.
Right.
Basically, our entire lives in clubs, and we love to dance and we love the music, and we collect it and we play it, and he's been in various bands that played that sort of dark music basis. And we moved to Eugene in 2004 for a bunch of family reasons, and then realized that we'd be driving up to Portland to go dancing all
right.
the time if we didn't do something about it. And around the same time, I became friends with another well-known DJ, John the Revelator, down here, who's responsible for the 80s Night at Blair Alley that's been going on for like 20 years.
Oh, right.
And he was on the radio, too, and he was playing some stuff that I liked that I hadn't heard down here. So I basically called him at the radio station and said, hey, come DJ my goth night. And he was like, here's up to you. And so we met up, we became friends, and he taught me to DJ sort of by like throwing me to the wolves the very first night that we had a goth night, and I got hooked. And people put up with me until I learned how to do it well, and I'm still doing it 10 years later, and he's just gone back up to Portland. So
yeah, and we'll put links in the show notes to the set that you did for our show previously, because that was very cool. And it's a little bit representative of what you can find at these Ghost House events. But it's not just you, actually. There's other DJs that step in. It's kind of like a curated mix of people who are all interested in the same kind of thing.
Yeah, that's about right. It's become very much a DJ crew of its own, sort of. I think I'm the only resident. I'm the only person who's there almost every time. But even I will take a night off every now and again and let other people step in and do it.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's our thing has always been to mix old and new and to mix things that are all across the spectrum of goth. So it's like, you know, we'll have somebody walk in and say, this isn't what I think is goth music, this is more industrial. And then the next song or two, there'll be things like that they are expected to hear more.
Right.
And so that mix and having to please everybody has really made us a very unusual night, I think.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of funny because this time of year, I think people tend to dust off who don't normally play this kind of stuff, a little bit of Bauhaus now and then to kind of, please the kids. But I mean, like, Ghost House is something that's year-round. This is a celebration that you guys are constantly embracing, so it's not just a seasonal thing.
Yeah, no, we do get more interest around Halloween for sure, and I think it's just people wanting to try it out, try it on, have some place to wear their black and not feel out of place. But all year round, we have a tremendous amount of interest. We do 2 goth weekenders a year. One's in spring, and we just had the other one, and we invite bands from wherever and throw a big dark arts market, which is always kind of amazing. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's great, and we love it. And it dies down in the middle of winter when it's really cold, and it dies down in August when everybody's out camping or going to Burning Man or whatever it is that they're doing.
Sure. This is kind of one of those things where, like, as I get older, I find it very interesting that a lot of the, like, darker subcultures, like metal and goth and whatnot, have this real community about them where they're like, they want to get together once a month, they want to hang out, they want to dance, they want to have a good time. In the way that they have a good time. And like it's kind of funny, like, as a kid I probably would have never guessed that all those like girls and boys in black were actually kind of like a little more social than I imagined.
dare I quote the sad and demented but social line from the Breakfast Club?
Right.
It's really a community, but it's really sort of an odd community. I've never met a more introverted community in my life. But at the same time, I think there's a lot to say about how being able to embrace things like black metal and goth and industrial really plays into people's mental health in some ways. If you can go and get it spin down on the dance floor in a community where you feel safe with whatever it is that you're doing, that's so much better than just always feeling marginalized.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to like an interview with Jonan Vasquez many years ago where he was talking about if you can just kind of purge this stuff out of your system through art and dancing and the stuff that you read and whatnot, when you're out in public, you're actually like a pretty reasonable, friendly person.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely agree that that's the way it is. There are lots of us that have, bookshelves full of ghost stories or, have read Baudelaire over and over again or have just kind of collections of art that are dark and bloody. And not like my own collection is necessarily like that, but it's not an uncommon thing.
Sure.
For people to have these very dark sort of private lives, and then when you see them in public, they're just kind of coping at the surface level. They're just pretending to be normal so they can pass on to the next time when they can feel like themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's something that's very joyful about going to a club where you see people who are dancing and they're playing music and whatnot, and you realize that, like, this might seem spooky or scary to someone else, but, like, everyone here feels at home. Everyone here feels like this is comforting, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, and that's something we hear over and over and over again from so many people. It's just, I love the community, I love what you do for the community, I love the fact that there is a community, and often we're like one of the first places that people come out and socialize when they've moved to town, and this is their preferred community. They know, they see, there's a goth night, and they come out to us, and suddenly they have an instant circle of friends.
Right. No matter where they're from.
Yeah.
That's so great. Well, as I mentioned, tomorrow, October 12th, is the next Ghost House get-together. And this is at an Old Nick's, if I'm not mistaken?
It's at Old Nick's Pub, which is 211 Washington Street in Eugene. And it's 21 and over, unfortunately.
Right.
And there is a $4 door charge.
But I mean, it's a very reasonable cover, so don't feel discouraged. And you get to dance all night, so it's
and
worth
you can dance all night.
Yeah.
And pub's really pleasant, and free parking. What else can I say?
Yeah.
Oh, it starts at 9. We start at 9.
Excellent. So yeah, don't be late. Well, excellent. Is there anything else we should mention before we kind of wrap this up and move on, or?
I can't really think so. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the show and the rest of the ghost stories, and I'm excited for this.
Oh, yeah. We got
It's been a fascination of mine.
Yeah. Next week, I'll give a little tease right now. We have someone who publishes a Lovecraft zine coming in, so that's going to be very fun. Well, thank you so much. DJ Refugium, please keep the tunes spinning and keep the Ghost House alive.
Thank you. It will remain undead as long as I'm around, for sure.
Excellent. Well, we'll take care.
Thank you. You have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
And that was a little conversation with DJ Refugium. Thank you so much for calling in. She was the mastermind behind Ghost House down south. If you ever get a chance to go, in fact, tomorrow is Ghost House in Eugene at Old Nick's, and our very own DJ Marshmallow is going to be DJing along with Refugium, and I don't know what the other DJ's name is. There's a surprise extra DJ that's going to be there that evening, and they're going to be DJing.
Exciting.
And we have a caller here. Caller, are you there?
I'm here.
Hello. Now, we've been telling some ghost stories here on the air, and we have a caller on the line. Do you want to introduce yourself or want to remain anonymous?
I will introduce myself.
Oh, excellent. Who is this?
My name is Gravy Brink.
Oh, I think I know you. How's it going?
Great. Yeah, I just thought I'd call in and talk about a ghost story or two.
Oh, please! If you got a ghost story, I would love to hear it. Yeah. What do you? Let's set the scene here. Let's get a little bit of a where and a when.
Where and a when? So, where is at my last apartment, which was in the Salem Arts Building, downtown Salem. When was basically, it was the duration of me being there and the build up here. Very strange happenings going on there.
Now, did this start right away, or was this something that you discovered after you moved in, or?
It took a little bit for me to experience it directly, but there were signs from the start of me living there that there was something weird going on there.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
what were the first signs?
First signs, my cat acted weird there. Like, it's really strange. So, in the middle of the night there, my cat would, I had a loft bed, and my cat would climb up the stairs and sleep up there with me. And she would climb down, and then she would do whatever she does, and she would start sprinting around the apartment. And this is an old cat. She's about 13 now, and she would start sprinting around the apartment and just letting out these guttural screams, like these like really disgusting guttural screams. It was like I'll do it for you.
Oh, please,
like
yes.
That's enactment. But it was like these like, oh,
whoa.
I'm laughing because I've heard it.
I'm talking like 3 a.m., 3:30.
So this is like not a usual sound that the cat makes, except now at this apartment.
Yeah, it was like a new thing, and I just thought it was maybe because she was like playing or something.
Oh, right. Interesting.
I don't know, but she didn't do that at our last apartment, so it was really strange.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, this is usually the first, because like pets are fairly consistent. You know, I mean, I've had several cats in my lifetime, and they once you get the behavior down, they're pretty much like that, no matter what's going on. So when they act out like that, that's usually like a sign of like an illness or something like that, or something else.
Yeah, very, very strange.
Wow.
And so I don't know. I just thought it was like she was playing or something, and that went on for a long time. And then after a little while, I started. I always slept with the oven light on. It was a studio apartment, just to have like a little bit of light, because it's hard to like get down from a loft bed and go to the bathroom without being able to see anything.
Sure.
And then eventually I started turning off the oven light and just having it be in the black there. And when I would go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and I would start coming back to my bed, I would see dark figures jumping out from the corner, like, of the shadows at me. Like, whoa. I thought it was just me being half asleep and just seeing things. And they would jump out and they would scare me so bad, like my heart would be pounding. Like it was like somebody was in the corner waiting to scare me, and they would jump out at me, and as soon as I got scared, they would disappear.
Huh. Very weird. So you know, just if I'm painting the picture correctly, it's like middle of the night, you're a little bleary-eyed, you're getting ready to, you know, do your business, and then it seems like there's something coming at you in the darkness.
Yeah, it was like there was like maybe a burglar in the house, and like somebody jumped out at me like to like spook me, and it would just be gone as soon as they scared me. And it happened the first couple of times, and I can be a little weird of a sleeper and like have some vivid dreams. And so I just thought that maybe it was like I'm half asleep, I'm seeing this.
Oh, okay.
But then I started having these horrible nightmares every single night, like just horrible nightmares about people invading my apartment and things like that. And then it continued to happen. Like I would go to the bathroom, and then when I was coming back and trying to get up to my bed, a figure would jump out at me and just completely scare me.
Right. Now, and just set the stage here, too. This isn't something that you experienced elsewhere. Like, you weren't, like, out walking home at night and you'd have, like, this kind of experience, or this wasn't something that had happened previously.
I've never seen something like that before. Like, I've never experienced anything like that before.
Whoa, how creepy.
Yeah, and then I had to start sleeping with the lights on.
Sure.
Because it just kept happening. And when I started sleeping with the lights on, I would still have the horrible nightmares, but I wouldn't have the figure jumping out at me anymore because there were lights on in there. Wow. And so I moved recently, and I still have nightmares every now and then, but I don't have them every night like I did when I was there.
Sure.
And I have not once since I moved, not even on the first night, heard my cat do that guttural scream since I moved.
Interesting. This is a common thread in a lot of these stories I've heard, where places have the connection to the experience, where it's often not like a person who's being haunted or something like that, but like the location itself has something weird about it, and it sounds like this apartment had something there.
Yeah, the Salem Arts building is really creepy.
Some like very strange energies there that it was very dark stuff going on there.
Wow. Now, did you ever speak to anyone else who'd ever lived there or had any experiences in that building?
I don't know. I didn't really know my neighbors or anything, so I'm not sure what their experiences with that were.
It'd be terrible if like all of their pets were like moaning and growling at the same time or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful. Well, wow. I mean that's a little bit of a strange. That had some details in there I had not heard before. That is very, very creepy.
Yeah, it really scared me. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we should segue into something that's like a little less scary, perhaps. Maybe we should talk about one of the next shows that your band's playing coming up.
Okay.
You are in Sadgasm, of course.
I am, yes.
Yeah, and I believe you have a show coming up not too long. Maybe one of our guests here could even speak to this event here with, was it Nomagusta and Fear Dog?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, as Mr. Gravy can attest to,
Mr. Gravy,
we have an event coming up on the 26th. It is the House of Corvus, our Vampire Court's first annual Halloween bash, and it is starring Nomagusta, Fear Dog, Sadgasm, and a new public premiere of Young Hentai as our DJ. So it's going to have lots of good alcohol, signature drinks, food, all kinds of fun, and all the proceeds go to Trans Lifeline, which is a suicide hotline for transgender individuals.
And an amazing cause.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah. Which I mean, yeah, that's very, very cool. And I mean, kind of the other part of it that's excellent is we get to see Sadgasm play, of course. So, and do you guys have any other shows or events coming up, or what's the story with Sadgasm these days?
Yeah, we've been doing a little less shows, but we do have a show we have that show, which I'm very excited about. Everybody in Salem should come out to it.
Heck yeah.
The next show after that is on Halloween in Corvallis. We're doing a cover set. We're covering Good Charlotte songs.
Whoa,
that's awesome.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah. And then we're doing November 15th, I believe, at the Gov Cup.
Right on.
I didn't know that. That's so cool. Last time you packed out the Gov Cup. That's going to be a good one again.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun, but definitely everybody needs to come out to October 26th at it's the dance studio on State Street next door to Cascade Baking Company.
Right.
And the bands are going to be great, and the DJ is going to be great, and the food and drinks are going to be great. So come out and dress up.
It is
and an excellent cause, too.
Yeah, $5.
Exactly.
I don't think we've said that, but all the proceeds go goes to the trans lifeline. So
Yeah, you could also pay more if you wanted to and get more the trans lifeline because it's a great cause.
Absolutely.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And I'll put some links in the show notes so that we can find the event and some Sadgasm tunes so that people can check out the music as well.
Do a little jam
Awesome.
session.
Yeah. Well, this time of year means that our New Year's show is coming very soon. You guys still on for New Year's?
Oh, we're always on for New Year's.
Woo! I love it. So for people who don't know, we try to get the Sadgasm boys to come in and give love advice on New Year's Eve, or as close to New Year's as we can. So it's been a bit of a tradition, and I mean, we gotta have it. If we, it's not. There's not a new year without it.
yeah, true.
Yeah, this will be the third year in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. Which it's always good because in that case, we've actually had enough people over the years call in that maybe we can get some people to follow up on previous encounters. Let us know what's been going on. So
Yeah, I was surprised about even getting a single follow up on the last one. So hopefully we get a couple more this time.
yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for calling in. This is great. I love it when people have little spooky stories for us. We're doing this for a couple more shows this month, so if anyone else out there has got a story and not quite sure if they want to call in this week, we're doing it again next week. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Love ya. Bye.
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 Always sweet to get a phone call from someone we know.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition to a tune here. One of my new favorite records that I got recently is this one called Sounds of Terror. And it has one traditional song on it, which you might know, and then a bunch of other stuff that you might not. And so I think we're going to hear a little tune called The Headless Horseman while we get things set up. And I think you might be wanting to play another song here?
Sure.
Yeah, cool. So we might get some more Kylie after the break here. So this is our holiday good time fun show here.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
In Transylvania, there is a legend that has become a symbol of terror throughout the world. In the dead of night, an evil transformation takes place within the castle of Count Dracula. After he rises from his coffin, he turns into a giant bat and flies through the night, seeking blood from the throats of his victims. A vampire of death. An early American named Ichabod Crane was terrified one night when he observed a gruesome sight in the moonlight. A ghostly white stallion galloped across the countryside carrying a ghostly rider. From the black hollow at his severed neck screamed his maniacal laughter. It was the Headless Horseman.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
All right. And we actually got 2 for 1 on that one, where we decided to go to the Count's Castle as well as hear from the Headless Horseman. Because that's the kind of show we like to have. We like to give you 2 for the price of 1. This is our Halloween Spooktacular Ghost Stories program, where we're just having some fun, hearing all sorts of creepy tales and whatnot. And, if you want to give us a call, that number, 503-990-6101. We're taking calls until midnight. And, if we actually get a call at midnight, we'll go a little long. Don't worry. We'll try to get everybody calls, so do not hesitate. Now, I believe Kylie is about ready here to wow us with another song. How you doing there?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, let's kill the wind. Let's kill the crickets. And let's turn things over to Kylie Burbank here on Mid-Valley Mutations. Going to be doing a little original tune for us.
Yeah, I think this song's pretty spooky enough. It's called 3 a.m. I wrote it when I was small. My veins are freezing into October, and it's 3 a.m. and the night's not over. I can see it in your eyes. You would haunt me as a child, but I've grown into something so what, then I can feel it in my left hand, and I can see it with my third eye. Drag into your bedroom while you sleep, sleep, sleep. Lay right next to you, and I eat. I can never change. Walking, wandering in the dark, waiting for someone to stop my heart, and I can see it in your eyes. You know who you used to be. I can feel it in my left hand, and I can see it with my third eye. Drag into your bedroom while you sleep, sleep, sleep. Lay right next to you, and I eat. I can never change. It's in my brain for the rest of my day. Drag into your bedroom while you sleep, sleep, sleep. Lay right next to you, and I eat. I can never change. It's in my brain. I can see it in my eyes. I'm not who I used to be. Thank you.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Nice and spooky.
Yeah, very, very seasonal.
Yes, true.
let me get this caller on the air here. Caller, are you there? Oh, hello. Caller, what's going on here? Hello?
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Howdy. Sometimes it takes a little while to get you on the air. This is Mid-Valley Mutations, and we're doing some ghost stories this year. Are you got a ghost story for us?
I do. Yeah.
Ooh, excellent. Well, would you like to introduce yourself, or do you want to remain a little anonymous?
My name is Elsa. I have another non-goth thing about Kylie.
No, what is it?
Yeah, let's get
You
the dirt.
were, Britney Spears Fantasy.
True, that is a perfume I wear. I'm currently wearing Britney Spears Fantasy, and I guess I do have a very intense love for pop music, so I guess there's that.
I mean, it's iconic though.
Thank you.
Sometimes pop music can be secretly spooky in a certain way, or
Very
secretly
true.
creepy in a certain way.
Hollywood.
Yeah, I always think of Blondie, which is like, there's certain things in Blondie songs where I'm kind of like, that's a little edgy.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, that was certainly on the radio.
True.
Excellent. Well, I love that you got some secret on dirt on Kylie. This is perfect.
Oh, it's not dirt. I celebrate it.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, this is the time of year where we do the ghost stuff. So, you got a little something for us?
I have that too.
Ooh, yes. Excellent. Well, why don't we do a little bit of a time and place and set the scene? What do we got here?
Okay, so kind of what I thought of was that I remember as a kid, I grew up in Salem, and there is this historic house on Chemeketa, I believe, and I remember, like, from a really young age, I kind of lived in that neighborhood, and we'd drive past that house, and I'd always think that I saw this little girl in the window. Like, this went on for years. Which, and my mom, she was a business owner downtown, and so, like, she knows a bunch of people. And I remember saying something when I was, like, I was like 10 or something, about how I used to see, like, a kid in the window all the time. And apparently she knew the homeowners, and she's like, yeah, those people have never had children.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that is kind of a short story, but
interesting.
really creepy.
Do you remember anything about this kid, like the way it was dressed, or anything like that, or? She,
like, now that I think about it, she was pretty, like, shadowy and not super clear, but I don't know, as a kid, I just wasn't super, like, and she, I don't know, I think she had, like, shorter hair, and just kind of was wearing, like, a generic, like, kid outfit, and, like, you know, it's either that I'm unwell or there's a ghost.
Right. Well,
could be either.
And you're a kid too, so you're kind of like, oh, there's another kid over there. You're just not even necessarily like
paying that much of attention.
It's like, that's a weird one, but it got a lot weirder.
Yeah.
So.
How strange. Yeah. Now, did that family have, like, other weird things about them, or was it just that, no, they didn't have kids and that was the end of it?
I honestly, because apparently my mom knew who they were, but I didn't really know them. So I don't think so. I mean, I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, it is like an early 1900s house, so I guess that kind of fits the bill for the archetype, if you will.
Right.
But unfortunately, I don't have any dishing of the family or the couple that lived there.
Maybe it's for the best.
Yeah. Better not to know
Wow. Well, I love stories like this because the more I get to know people who grew up in Salem, there's some creepy stuff that happened in this town.
Very true.
People have these kinds of stories fairly often, and I love piecing together this idea of Salem with all of its like ghosts and spooks scattered out. It's fascinating.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, we have some pretty spooky history.
Yeah. Well, that was I love that. Do you have any other bits you can drop on us before we let you go, or?
I think that's the one that I can articulate the best.
Excellent. Well, we are going to do this for a couple more weeks, so if you have another story you want to tell, you can always give us a call next week, too. All
right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, any messages for Kylie before we let you go?
I love and support her.
Aww. Love you too, also. Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Cool. Well, take care, and thanks for calling.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Let's see. I think it might be time that we contact the weather computer. So, weather computer, what have you got for us this time?
Thank you, Austin. This is the Mid-Valley Mutations weather computer, and here is a look at the local weather, brought to you by creatures of the night. Dark, brooding, mysterious. So realistic about the future prospects of our country. When you go out in the fall, don't forget to be escorted by a creature of the night. Hashtag creature of the night, not monster on the right. Tonight, a few clouds. Low near 36 degrees. No more smoking on the back porch at night, I'm afraid. Winds north by northwest at 5 miles per hour, with a 100% chance of me making the same ridiculous Cary Grant reference I make every single time. 10% chance of rain. Sunrise at 7:22 a.m. Tomorrow, cloudy. High around 61 degrees. Barely warm enough to want to go outside at all. You should probably stay in and listen to Halloween music instead. Winds north at 3 miles per hour, with a 10% chance of rain. Sunset at 6:33 p.m. So dark. So very, very dark. And that was a look at the local weather, brought to you by the weather computer and creatures of the night. Who would have predicted? Who would have suspected? She's not so scary, she's got all of my records. When you want to see things from a realistic point of view, try seeing it like a creature of the night. Okay. Enough silliness. Here's Austin and Mid-Valley Mutations.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!
All right. We are getting nearish to the end of the show here, and I want to thank my guests for coming in. Kylie, thank you so much.
Thanks for letting me be here again.
And a genuine member of the Vampire Council. I love this. This is so. This doesn't always happen around the holidays. We don't always get blessed that way. So it's always
lucky.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
There was one comment you made off mic where because we had the Gravy's story calling in, and you actually know this apartment that and the cat and the stories. You'd been there.
Yeah. So I was living there for a while too, and Nick and I had performed like some witchcraft there, but I don't think we ever invoked any demons or anything. I think it was truly just the history of this building. I don't know if he'd want me to say his name because everyone deals with this kind of stuff differently, but my friend lived in the building and he went mad. Like, he started to live in his car. He, like, didn't even worry about giving notice and stuff. He was having horrible nightmares to the point where he would hear people, see people that weren't there.
Nightmares seem to be something that happens in that building.
Yeah, and it's the Salem Arts Building is right downtown, right next to the Reed Opera House. And one night I was off work around 3 a.m. coming home because I was bartending, and I looked to the left and there is a shadow man wearing a hat and like a trench coat. It's just like the outline, and it's like kind of fuzzy, but you can absolutely tell that it is the outline of a human. Well, human shape, I wouldn't say human,
right?
But outline of a human shape. And whenever I see shadow people, I always like wave at them and let them know I acknowledge them. And this time, this one didn't move or disappear; it just stood still. And I was like, I'm gonna go home now. Like, bye.
Interesting. That's not fun.
I don't know what they mean, or
It's a good point, actually. He could be totally harmless.
Yeah, true. It's just a little unsettling, but I always feel kind of blessed when the veil is thin and I get to see things like that, because not everyone gets to in their life, but it's also like kind of draining.
Yeah, a little exhausting in a way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're hearing this and you have an anecdote that you'd like to share, give us a call, 503-990-6101. We're telling ghost stories here on Mid-Valley Mutations. And, your comment about this time of year, I think, is very much interesting. Because, like, when the veil is thin, like, it's hard to have these kinds of experiences when, like, the sun is out till 9 p.m. and it's, like, blazing hot all day.
Oh, yeah.
Ruins the ambiance.
Yeah, but there's something about as soon as you have to put sweaters on and the fog rolls in where, like, these kinds of things are on my mind.
Yeah, it's true.
That's very, very, very eerie. If you have lived in this building or know other stories about this building, I'm very curious to know your experiences. So if you're at home and you're like, oh yeah, I've been there before, like, give us a call. The nightmares thing is really sticking with me. That's creepy. Salem does have a bit of a madness issue, I guess is a way to put it. Not just with the hospital, but I think people who live in this town struggle with it as well as
I agree.
not just drugs, but just mental illness and other things.
We're all gonna go mad if we stay here longer.
Oh no! Well, let's hope that's not the case. Now, you had mentioned that you had other experiences from your ghost hunting days. You got another story you want to close out with us with, or?
I do. So, this happened quite a few years ago, probably back in 2014, 15, somewhere in there. And the town that I grew up in, St. Joe, Missouri, there is this huge plot of land, because it used to be, basically nothing when Kansas City was first becoming something. So there was this huge plot of land, and there was one plantation house on it, which I, for the life of me, don't know what the original name of the owners was, but it's come to be known as the 12th Street Mansion. It's a huge, huge house. 3.5 stories above ground and a finished basement. Like, it's huge. And so over the years, as St. Joe became a bigger and bigger town, they ended up separating the land off, and other houses got developed and blah, blah, blah. One of the biggest chunks of land became the Ashland Cemetery, and this is the one that has, like, all the big mausoleums, and, like, a lot of, like, the big founding fathers of St. Joe are buried there. And so this house just kind of got a bad rep. Well, throughout the ages, it got separated into, like, a duplex, and then a fourplex, and then they added vaulted ceilings. So this beautiful old plantation house just got modified over and over and over again throughout the years. And relevant to the story, but every single owner of this house, up until the time that we investigate, had been white. Well, the newest owners of the house started having some issues when they decided that they wanted to buy the house and strip it down to its bare bones and rebuild it back the way that it used to be. And they were a Latin family, and they noticed that they were the only ones that seemed to be having experiences in this place. So they had a group of gentlemen working on the house with them. 3 of them were white guys. 1 of them was an African-American guy. And the African-American guy was thrown down 3 flights of stairs and broke his neck. Thankfully did not die, but was actively in ICU on the night that we went in to investigate. So, yeah, so their youngest son was about 2.5, almost 3, and he had been walking around downstairs and said that he had noticed a man in all black with a black hat, which is infamous throughout paranormal investigating. You hear about the black man with a black hat everywhere, and there's lots of different opinions on what he is. Some people say that he represents like a lost loved one. Other people say that he's a dark omen. It just depends on your own interpretation, I suppose. But in this specific situation, I do not believe that he was good by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
So what we ended up finding out through our research of the property was that one of the original owners actually used to be a pastor. He was white, who was actually stripped of his title and removed from the church because as the church began to progress throughout time, it invited in more people of color into the congregation, and he didn't like that. So he did everything in his power to prevent them from having anything to do with the church. And if there was any voting involved, he just kind of kicked them out and dismissed their vote. And it made the most amount of sense since all of these things were happening to people of color in this house, and none of the former residents had experienced anything. I think the only former resident that did was there was a gentleman that actually had mentioned a couple of times to the landlord that he kept seeing a little girl in his room, which actually ended up coming into play with our investigation. We did an EVP session down in the main living room area, and myself being a bit more sensitive to paranormal entities kept hearing a little girl speaking. She seemed really shy. And so I would ask her a question, and then I would repeat back what I was hearing her say. And we not only have on recording me asking the questions, me repeating her answers, but actually her answering the questions herself.
Whoa.
The creepiest thing about it was when we went upstairs into the attic, we found just a strew of paperwork and pictures, and we found quite a few pictures of the girl in question.
Oh, wow.
There was a Bible that we found that had several letters that were stuffed into it between a woman and the guy that she was cheating on her husband with, and the, I guess, print off of messages between her and her husband after he found out. Messages between her and the guy she was cheating on her husband with about what they were going to do with the guy that she was married to. There was a bunch of passages highlighted about like the consequences of murder and the consequences of adultery, and it was just crazy stuff. And so we decided that we were going to try to trick the ghosts in the house because so far this man in black hadn't been showing up. So we talked a little bit, and I was like, well, maybe he's really attached to this house, so maybe let's try our second round, which our first round is like asking some nice questions, try to get some answers. Round 2 is more of my buddy Cody's thing, where he just tries to tick them off as much as possible to see if he can get some kind of something from them. So he starts making threats about how he's so glad that they're tearing down this house, that they are telling everybody they're remodeling it. They're basically just going to bulldoze the whole thing to the ground and put a condo there or something, maybe a Walmart, who knows. And we started getting these shuffling sounds around in the attic. So we just kept talking. We just casually just sat the recorder down and just kept walking away like we had forgotten it. Apparently, whoever it was didn't pay attention that we had left it, because for the next hour after that, as we were doing EVPs in the basement and then just going over recordings on the main floor, you can hear like heavy breathing and panting and walking back and forth and shuffling, like someone was really angry about what we had been talking about and just the fact that we were there in general. So after all of that had happened, we did our typical blessing of the house. We let the owners know the next day everything that we had found, showed them all the EVPs, all the videos, all the pictures. One of the things that was really crazy was that I had a video camera that was set up to shoot the staircase that the man fell down, and it shut off at 22 minutes and some odd seconds. And it was really crazy because we always have everything fully charged, backup batteries for everything. Right. And so we went up to the camera and I was like, well, that's really weird. So we pressed play, we rewound it, nothing was there, nothing abnormal showed up. And so we pressed play, we waited until 22 minutes and some odd seconds, everything was fine. So we left the room, did some investigating in a side room, came back, and it was like 28 some minutes and it was still going. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're good. So we literally take 5 feet of steps away from it and take one step onto the next set of staircases, and we hear doo-doo as it shuts off. And the comedian inside of me that's scared, out of there, right, scared to death, expected to turn around and just see a man in a sheet with his finger over the button going, oh crap, and then just run into the other room.
There is a little bit of like that. Even if it was a ghost, it seems like the ghost has got a sense of humor.
Right, exactly. So anyway, so after we tell the owners everything that's gone on, they start getting a lot of activity at their own house that they are living in while they're renovating this. So over the course of 4 days, we got basically no sleep because we were back and forth between the 12th Street mansion and their home that they're renting while they're doing all of this, talking to them, getting more information, doing more background history, doing more blessings. And it got to the point where they actually had to call in their priest to bless both their house and the 12th Street mansion. And we haven't been back, but thankfully from what we've heard and we've checked in over the years, they haven't had any more instances, so that's good.
Amazing. It's interesting that story, I mean, like, obviously America has this deep-rooted problem, but, like, even our ghost stories have racism at the heart of them. That's such a fascinating element of that.
I think it's just because when we move on, even ghosts are still people. Right. And so, like, a lot of their same beliefs and a lot of their same emotions, I think, emotions especially, is kind of what keeps them here.
Well, and they're still processing life and what other people are going through. I mean, America is still racist to one degree, and so
we're absolutely. Still, especially in the South where this happens, which is kind of funny to think about because when you're there, you're like, oh, we're the Midwest, we're in the middle of everything. We're not the South, but you mean to Oregon, everything's the South. So.
Yeah, well, and the Midwest is kind of the South of...
It's like the South Junior.
Yeah.
Missouri's basically like a Texas Junior. It's pretty bad, but...
Wow. Well, I want to thank you guys both again for coming in. Do you think you're going to do any ghost hunting up here, or do you think that
Let's
this
do
is
it.
Yeah,
more...
actually, so the paranormal group that I had was established for 7 years, and actually when I moved out here about 2 years ago, I decided that I wanted to create a sister branch off of that original paranormal group. So I left my co-founder back home to run our group that we had there. We separated all the equipment in half and rebuilt everything that we have, so I'm hoping that I can snatch up some people to go some ghost hunting with me and show them the ropes and whatnot.
It seems like something that would not only fit in up here, but is kind of, I mean, there's enough places and people with unfinished business that, I mean, you could really help some
definitely.
people. So.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much. Again, let's plug that event one last time for the Vampire Council. If you want to come to this, there's going to be some music, some food, some drinks. What's the where and when again?
So it is October 26th. It is at the Dance Hall downtown in Salem. It's the Premier Academy of Performing Arts. We are having our first annual Halloween bash. All proceeds go to Trans Lifeline. It's a suicide hotline for transgender people.
Very cool.
We will have, absolutely. We have 3 live bands. We have No Me Gusta, Sadgasm, and Fear Dog. And then a public premiere for our DJ Young Hentai. All different kinds of alcoholic beverages, signature cocktails, food. We're actually going to have some cosplayers there doing some spooky stuff, so they'll be taking pictures with people too. And we have a professional photographer coming and whatnot. So
everybody should wear costumes.
Come on. Absolutely. We're going to be dressed up. Yeah. We're going to be sweating. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Very sweaty.
And then, of course, there's some songs online and some videos online, but the real deal is to catch Kylie live. That's kind of the deal. So the next time, come on out. It should be fun.
thank you so much for coming in. You guys were excellent. And
thanks for having us.
If you're listening and you're like, hey, I didn't get to tell my story. Next week, we're going to have more ghost stories here on the air. I believe we're going to be even getting the editor of the Audient Void to come in and talk about his Lovecraft zine and horror writing and poetry in this day and age to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
And then I think November 1st, we're going to extend it one extra day because we're here on the radio the day after Halloween. And it's still the Day of the Dead, so more ghost stories.
Yay!
And I think DJ Victrola from Portland, she's going to come down. And she did a whole 2 hours of ghost stories last year from stuff from back east. So I think she's going to hang out and just take calls this year. So
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
That's where the real spooky stuff happens.
Yeah. Thanks to all the callers. Thanks to everybody who was interested. And what can I say? You guys are wonderful. You guys are beautiful. And without you, there would be no show. Anything before I go?
Stay spooky, everybody, and stay true to yourself and love everybody.
Yeah, I love that. Be seeing you.
Mid-Valley Mutations.
Halloween Spooktacular 2019!